So if someone is on the line and you sharing your opinion pushes them away, I think that's a gift. But it's also like, if you double down, how many people that were on the sidelines go, I want to work with that guy now?
This old woman left me a voicemail. She's like, shame on you. You should be arrested for what you're doing. It's like all she said. I want to be like, what am I doing that I should be arrested for?
That is what I think in the back of my mind is I want to be funny. I want to be real. I want to make people laugh. Don't want to be like everybody else, but I want to have some level of professionalism.
Welcome back to the Figuring It Out podcast. Today I've got Mario Russo and Steve Cathcart. Thanks, guys, for coming on.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for having us.
All right, so for people who don't know, did you guys just recently meet, or have you guys known each other for a while?
We met like 6 weeks ago.
No, we've. I got a picture. I wish we could show it here.
We'll just talk about it. And
We went to kindergarten through all the way to college together. Sorry, almost done here.
Yeah, you're good.
Olmsted Falls, graduated in 2005. And yeah, we weren't really friends in all the way through high school because we never had a class together.
But you weren't not friends.
Right.
We were on this kindergarten soccer team.
Yeah, we were. That's the picture. We'll post that soon.
Yeah.
But Mario was, played football and all that. I played other recreational sports. But always got along. But then I went to, so long story short, we ended up both going to Bowling Green.
Okay.
And roomed, got a house with a couple other guys there, and then became really good friends, he and I.
And were you guys party guys in college, or were you academics?
We were mathletes.
Yeah, kind of a little bit of both. Not like a fraternity crazy.
No craziness.
No.
Yeah, but we had a lot of fun.
Yeah, we
had a
didn't.
good time. I think senior year I might have went to like 6 classes, but
we got our
we
money's
made it
worth.
through.
And what were your degrees?
C's get degrees, right? I was a finance major.
Okay.
I was
Finance.
environmental policy, and then I got a graduate degree in geology.
All right, so fast forward to now. What do either of you use your degrees in any way, shape, or form?
Oh yeah, a little bit. I mean, there's a lot of math
finance.
in real estate, so I definitely think that background helped, analyzing deals and, just knowing. I wanted to know how the stock market worked, how the economy worked, and that definitely helped give me like a base knowledge for, how it all gets put together. But I would say if I didn't go to college, I'd still be somewhat successful. I don't think you need to go.
So when you were in college, what was your game plan of like, I'm getting this degree to do what? Did you know?
Yeah, I had a job selling life insurance out of college. Actually, when I was in college, I was given an internship. And in junior and senior year, I actually had my license. So I could sell, make a little bit of money. And then when I got out, I had a job and worked there for maybe 3 or 4 years. Got my investment licenses so you can sell securities, and kind of moved from there to a bank and did the same thing there.
And why did you like doing that, or was it kind of boring?
Yeah, there's like that cachet with, you put a suit on, you're driving a nice car, you're a stockbroker, so to speak, you're making money. Really, it was kind of sales and insurance sales at the time. And so I thought I'd work my way up, and, they sell you on, hey, you're going to make all this money and you're going to live this lifestyle. I mean, it's a lot of work. It's just
like when they say you're going to make the money, like what are they talking about? Like what would be a good amount of money to make per year in that line of work?
You can make a killing in financial services, but it's you have to put the work in. I think the way their contracts work, if you sell life insurance, you would get paid residuals. So if you sign somebody up in year 1, you're getting paid through the life, through their whole lifetime, as long as they're a client. So in year 5, you're still getting a piece of that premium as well. So you can build a book of business. There's a lot of insurance people I know that have books of business that are making, a lot of money. But I didn't enjoy that, day to day like I did real estate. Real estate was like, wow, this is fun. I loved going to see houses, and I kind of started while I was doing that, working, for the bank.
What year would that have been when you kind of first dipped into the real estate side?
So it was 2014, and when I did my first bit of wholesaling, right? Everybody knows what wholesaling is. And it was very slow to start. You don't know how to analyze deals. You don't know where to get leads. I was young that was 10 years ago. So I was in my mid 20s, didn't really know the business. But I just went out and tried to do it.
Like who gave you that for where you're like, oh, I'll try wholesaling?
So actually our project manager, Ian, gave me a book. and it said, flipping houses with none of your own money. And I was like, that is such bullshit. So there's no way to do that. You cannot flip houses with no money. What's this gimmick? And
Cover was a dude in the question mark suit.
dude, it was this guy was such a cheese ball. I wish I had the book. His haircut, it looked like something that you did with a weed whacker.
Who was it?
It was wild. I can't remember the guy's name.
Okay.
Brian
It
Burke.
wasn't anybody that you would know. It wasn't like Grant Cardone or, Tarek.
Nobody fancy.
No, it was some guy. Anyway, some cheese dick. But anyways, he wrote this book and I read it.
Changed Mario's life though.
It changed my life. I love that guy. And so Ian and I'll tell this real quick story. So Ian and I started going to these houses, right? I got some contract from a title company, went to these houses, and in the first house or two we went to, we're just getting kicked in the chin. Like these sellers are like, you're not buying this house. They're like, you're trying to middle the deal. This one old guy's like, you're trying to middle our deal. And I'm like, don't know. Like, I'm going to buy it. And I'm telling you, like, they saw right through us.
Did you give something away, you think?
So, well, we would actually, so what ended up happening is after a couple deals, Ian won't mind me saying this, he's like, I can't do this. This sucks. Like, this sucks ass. And so I'm like, all right, well, I'll keep trying. So I got another deal under contract, and I put up all this earnest money. To me, at the time, it was like maybe $500 or $1,000, and we lost it. We overpaid for a deal, and I just fell on my face. And I was like, oh, God. That was probably all the money in my account at the time, or half. And so then I end up, getting a little discouraged, but that's when I met Adam and Travis.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and they helped me get on the right track. They said, you're kind of doing it wrong. You got to go to this area, look for this house. We have all these buyers for this type of product. And that's when my career jump started. Made a good bunch of money in the next couple of years and got my license, and it kind of grew from there, started doing flips.
So why didn't you quit? Like, why didn't you just stop when you lost that money? It was a lot that you had at the time. Like, what made you say, I'm going to go ask someone else for help, as opposed to just being like Ian, where it's like, hey, this sucks?
Well, I still believed it could happen. And when then meeting, it was Travis I talked to first, and he's like, dude, we're making all this money, wholesaling these houses. Just come do this. And so I interviewed with them. I actually took Travis on an appointment, and he's like, you've got really good sales skills. He's like, we can, give you leads. So they were actually giving me leads. That was a big benefit. So they were giving out leads, and I was closing them down. And in the first year, I think I did like 30 wholesale deals.
How much money is that for people listening? Ballpark.
Well, I told Adam that if I didn't make 70 grand, because at the bank I was making like 50.
Okay.
So, which to me at the time was okay. It was like kind of a steady paycheck. So I said, if I don't make 70,000 my first year, I'm going to go back to the bank and try to work my way up, because I thought it just wouldn't be worth it. And I ended up like just making that amount.
Okay.
So if that gives you kind of an idea.
And what were you doing at the time?
At that time, what year was that?
That 2015-ish.
Yeah,
Let's give a little wine.
Yeah, give him a little
I am
plug.
kinda
Little
thirsty.
Let everyone
shameless
know.
plug. Sharon James Cellars out in Newberry.
Right.
We run that winery.
And what wine do we have here?
This is our Tranquility.
It's a semi-sweet Vidal wine. So actually probably the last wine I'd be choosing to drink right now, because I'm a dry red guy, but I didn't have that at my house. This is all we had.
Didn't you bring a bottle in here?
Yeah, I gave it away. We gave it to
Yeah, we gave another one
Dwayne.
away. So
Good
Always
guess.
promoting.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun.
So 2015. What were you doing?
2015, I was in Denver.
Okay.
So I moved from Ohio to Denver in 2012, and working in the field I went to school for. And it was an okay job, but I was in front of a computer like,
What was it?
so it was Geographic Information Systems, GIS. That's what I went to school for. And
What the hell is
it's
that?
like Google Maps meets Microsoft Access.
He was a nerd.
Okay.
So it's like, where are things and why? So I worked for a oil and gas software company, and then I worked for a 911 call center, actually, in Commerce City, Colorado, right outside of Denver. And so I did all their maps, like all the stuff the firemen would look at, the police, the ambulance, and all the 911 operators. So they would type in like emergency at 123 Main Street, and then all the systems dispatches the closest one. How fast are they going to get there?
So you built that out.
Kinda.
He's
It
a
was,
smart guy.
it was,
Smart guy.
there was days when I would go in, I would say good morning to people, and then not say another word to somebody until I left. I'm just in front of a computer. So after a while, I'm like, man, this kind of sucks. So ended up moving back to Cleveland in 2018 and started applying for the similar jobs. I actually had an interview Cuyahoga County to work for them, which would have been a fine job. And I remember very distinctly, I come over to Mario's and Kara, who he was dating at the time. You guys lived in North Olmsted. And we're sitting there talking, and Mario's like, dude, you should try real estate. And I'm like, yeah. And I kind of had an interest. I bought Brandon Turner's book from Bigger Pockets when I lived in Denver. So I had an interest. Like, I want to start getting into rental properties. Never thought I was going to do that as a job, though. I was going to use my W-2 income
and just
buy a rental, maybe house hack, all that. But then when I was talking with Mario, he's talking about, because he was having the wholesaling, he was with local. You could do this, you could do that, you could buy this, you could flip. And I remember very distinctly, there was no like fluff. You could tell he walked the walk. He wasn't like making shit up to like convince me.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. And then so like a week later, I like shadowed him with another friend of ours. We went to all these properties and spent a day. That kid never came back, right? And
one of many.
One of many. And I was like, I'm in. So just started wholesaling.
Like, what was different emotionally about it from being in front of a computer all day?
It's still true to this day. It's different every day.
And the same thing over and over again was exhausting.
Yeah, it was like mind numbing. It was like I could have, and to Mario's, what he was saying about the salary for the W-2 job, I could have probably maxed out at like 110.
But after how many years?
Probably another 5 more years, and then maybe increment. Maybe if you're like running a department or something like that, and that was like the ceiling.
That's like the most.
Yeah, that was with a degree and experience and all that. Just because there's not that much money in it.
Yeah,
it was interesting. Some things were cool, but and then with real estate, I'm like, yeah, let me do it. And kind of got a deal going. Started snowballing. Working with the different people that are at local in Great Lakes, and a lot of them still are there. And I was like, man, this is cool. Going out, seeing properties, meeting different owners, different situations. And once you get your first deal, my first check was $795. I still have the check.
Okay.
And I was like, yes, I'm making, because you just proved to yourself, like if I could just get a deal.
That was an assignment fee?
That was a list, turned into a listing, I think.
Yeah.
It wasn't an assignment fee.
Okay.
But I got like...
It was a small assignment fee.
It might have been, but it was small.
It was a small assignment fee, but still, $800.
Yeah, and
it took an hour to go see the house.
It proved to me at least, like, okay,
there's something here.
There's something here. You could do it. You could make money, and then you do a couple wholesale deals, and then I just got really at it about finding the off-market leads.
Yeah, because that's the structure right now. You're usually the guy talking to the homeowner first, right? Or no?
Yeah, we send out a lot of direct mail.
Okay.
And it's my number on it, just because with both of our numbers, it gets too confusing, and Mario's busy enough on the phone as it is. So yeah, that I'll take the first call and then kind of go through that filter and then decide, to set up the appointment or not.
And how wild do those calls get?
Those calls could be pretty funny.
If you have some time, I'll get my phone.
Yeah, Mario had one that was like...
It's inappropriate.
Yeah, it's very
any
inappropriate.
podcast, we'll put it this way. But we used to, this was back...
Used to save them.
Yeah, we share voicemails and just wild messages, just.
I just deleted off my phone. This old woman left me a voicemail. She's like, shame. She just starts like this. Shame on you. Shame on you. You should be arrested for what you're doing. It's like all she said. I want to be like, what are you doing? Or what am I doing that I should be arrested for? But I get comebacks, and anybody who sends out like direct mail, they have heard this too. Because people will like threaten, do not send any more mail to my house. And I actually looked it up. It's not illegal. As long as it's postmarked through the UPS, yeah. You could send them 10 things a day. They'll get pissed, but it's not illegal. But so people will call me like, I want stop sending me. And if they're nice about it, okay, that's fine. I'm professional. Yeah. But if they come off as dicks first, now I'm like, do you call Window Nation every time you get a freaking flyer in the mail now? And they're like, and we just scream and then we hang up and you move on to the next one. That wasn't
happening at your last job.
No, that wasn't. I would have loved that. But that's, you get some of that.
You're always going to get that.
Do you think a lot of people quit because of that? Like when you said people have come in, they've kind of fell off. Like, is that a layer where people are like, I can't deal with it?
Yeah, sales in general in any industry is so difficult, and I think that's the reward that we as salespeople get. You know, the sky's the limit, right? It's really your own destiny. You can make whatever you want. You work as hard as you want, but that's because it's so difficult to get into that. You know, for every successful agent, salesperson, what have you, there's 10 that have failed, and I think I've probably trained close to 50 people.
Cold calling specifically
That was you.
is rough
Yeah.
because it's your cold calling people. And at least in this market, it's everybody's been called. Everybody who owns rental property in Northeast Ohio, they've been called before. So when you call somebody and it might be your first day, I've never done this before, and they stop calling my fucking number. Yeah. And you get that a couple times and you're brand new and you can't really see the light at the end of the tunnel. That's tough.
You have to have some thick skin. And,
Yeah.
Well, and what's great is I think younger people are great to, start in sales because sometimes they don't care, Those people who do like those like prank shows, they'll go up to the guy who goes up to the guy in Walmart. It's like, huh?
Yeah,
You're like,
funny.
that guy would be great in sales because I would never do that. I don't have the cojones to do that. But if you can be that bold, you're you're an awesome salesperson because you have the thick skin. You can go make 20, 30 calls a day or walk door to door and you just don't care.
We used to do that. We used to call Walmart and we would ask for their help department and then we would just talk in these crazy
Just moan over the loudspeakers.
Well, Steve used to.
Oh, I used to make prank phone calls all the time.
College.
Yeah, we would,
Blast with that.
come home from the bars and
So
even like the
My
infomercials.
belly's sticking out.
I would just call. The infomer and the friend, him and our roommates would be there and
So
just
funny.
fuck with the people on there. But going back to one thing, the young.
Let's do a prank call.
Have you guys seen?
It
Have
would
you
be
seen
so
this
fun.
TikTok trend where what they'll do is they'll take two phones and they'll call
Yeah.
two Chinese restaurants?
That's
Yes,
very
they're
funny.
talking to each other.
Do you know what we had?
I have seen that. That is actually
Mario, I don't know if you were we were at our friend's Kuharik's house, and one of the most genius, if a young kid wants to take this and run with it, because I don't do it anymore. I'm an upstanding citizen. But back when like the yellow page or the white pages, so we would just find a random name in the white pages. So it had their name and their address and their phone number. So we call, and me and my buddies, one of us would call, and we'd be like, "Hi, this is so-and-so from," I think we said PlayStation Magazine. It's PlayStation Magazine, just confirming that your order for $2.99 a year's worth has been confirmed and you should get the first one. And they would go, I didn't order that, blah, blah, blah. And we go, "Is this Bob Smith at 456 Hickory?" And they go, "Yeah." I go, "Well, it says right here you ordered it." "Yeah." They call "Did you order this?" They call their kid in the room, and then we go, "Would you like to speak to our manager?" "Hell yeah, I want to speak to your manager."
And then
Our other friend would be in the other room, and our friends would just be dying. And he'd go, "Oh, I'd like to get this sorted out." "You better get it sorted out."
The whole time there's no charge.
Yeah, and they go, "Well,
it's just
it
that.
says here you bought our subscription." "Well, you should have never bought it." "I didn't fucking buy it." Like, "Aren't you Bob Smith at 423 Hickory?" And it was the most genius. It worked every time. We could have him going for like half an hour.
So I'm thinking, how did you do it in college? In college, he would call into one of those like jewelry infomercials where it's like the black diamond of Zeus. You can order for $14.95. So he would call in as like an old man or something.
Something. Old woman, doesn't matter.
I'd like to order the black diamond of Zeus for my wife. She's in the other room.
And those are hard because those people are like trained to filter out.
Oh, you had them calling. And that should be at like 2 a.m. After Taco Bell and you've gone out to the bar. But that's just I guess the whole point to relate this back to the podcast.
Yeah, what are we talking about again?
Bring this back in. Well, but you're charismatic, and I knew that he would make it in real estate because he has, the sales skills. You're, like I said, charismatic, good on the phones, and that's a huge part of it. You have to be really good on the phone.
Well, going back to
Appointments.
what you said about the young kids are good.
Yeah.
I've often thought about that, and they can be really good. And there's some young people, we're agents at local, and there's some really good young guys and girls
shout
there
out
now.
Kane.
Yeah, Kane has been killing it.
Kane's killing
Shandor,
it.
and they're getting some new people, and props to those guys. But I found too that something with young people coming into real estate is that they don't know what's on the other side. Meaning, it gets hard, and they go, "You know what? Maybe I'll try working for my my buddy's dad instead. And they like leave. We've seen a lot of young people come in and leave. Whereas like when we had different jobs, we had those W-2 jobs. There's a lot of people there that Adam and Trav, Burke, they've all had those W-2 jobs where it's like you get adversity in real estate. I already know I'm not going back.
Yeah.
So I might as well just push through this hard time in real estate because I'm not going back. And almost that kind of sustains you through it. Now, not 100%. We've had people who are older who have started and stopped. Yeah. But
it's scary enough. And if you don't have a support system that, allows you to do it, it's almost impossible. And I do remember, my dad and my grandfather, they were big into sales, and my dad's still in the business. But even my mom was like, "You're crazy for leaving your job." She doesn't talk like that. Sorry, Lisa. And but she was like, "Don't do it." She's like, "It's not good. You don't know what you're going to make." And so it was scary. And I was down, I was down to my last dollar.
How do you ignore that voice though? Because I think a lot of successful people have done it. Like, how in your head do you listen to like, this is my own mother who raised me?
Sure.
And people I love and care about don't believe in it, but you knew you did. Like, how did you stay with that?
Yeah, you have to believe in what you're doing, and whether that's fake it till you make it, and you just go out there and work as hard as you can. I think it was easy for me because like your first check was $800. Mm-hmm. My first check was more than I would make in a month and a half at the bank.
How much was it?
So it was $4,250. Okay, and I got that check. That was 10 years ago, 8 years ago, somewhere in that range. I was like, holy shit. I was like, if I can do this in one deal, do 3 of these a month, and I'm making $150,000 a year. And to me, that was insane.
Yeah.
And just how things develop. I mean, the first flip we ever did was wild too. That story is crazy in itself.
Where did you evolve? Yeah, because where did the evolution go from I'm wholesaling to like, okay, maybe I keep one of these?
Yeah, well, so I was wholesaling. I did a slew of wholesale deals, and then I said, we need to flip one. And actually what ended up happening is Ian and I, when I was at the bank, I got a mortgage through Fifth Third and did like a live-in flip, right? I actually bought a house with a, FHA loan, okay? And Ian, can fix anything. He's very skilled, carpenter, do it all himself. And so we're like, we're going to live in it and we're going to flip it. And after 2 years, we'll sell it. Well, we kind of did that. But at the same time, I'm like, I want to flip another one. So I end up getting a list from the land bank and end up buying a house for $9,000 in Maple Heights. And I couldn't, at the time, I was like, well, where am I going to get the money? Now money's everywhere. It's like, where are you going to get the deal? So I end up getting the money for the purchase from a small hard money lender out in Pittsburgh. And then the money to fix it up, I only needed a couple grand because we were doing a lot of work ourselves. My now wife lent me a couple thousand, and my dad lent me a couple thousand, and I might have chipped in a couple grand. I had like maybe $2,000 in my account. I was down to my last dollar. We flipped this house, took us like 8 months, and ended up selling it. And Steve Yoke actually bought the house.
Hey, shout out Steve.
Yeah, Steve Yoke. Steve's a good guy and has really grown his business, but he bought that house and made it a rental. And it was a good rental for him for years, but that was our first flip.
And how much money did you make on the flip then?
We made $16,000, but it took us 8 months and we did all the work ourselves. So it was a terrible deal looking back now.
Yeah, but you had Ian, right? Like, is Ian a pivotal part of this? Like, to have someone who actually knows how, because did you know how to work on a house or no?
No, I didn't know anything. I still don't. I could paint. I could do like a little drywall.
I like to say there's 3 things you got to do really well to flip. You got to find deals. And we most of our money's made in the off-market deals. You can get on-market stuff too, but I think that's where the money's at. You got to have good lenders. You got to have the money to do it, especially if you're doing multiple. And then you have to have a great contractor.
Yeah, the contractor seems to be the hardest. Like, because in my head, I know all of those characters except the contractor.
Yeah, they're the hardest to find.
You have to have people that you trust in that realm. So whether it's, Ian, I've known probably longer than I've known you. I lived on the same street as Ian, and we met when I was 3 years old.
We actually, Ian and I lived right around the block from each other.
Yeah, and then you did live right around the
So we all went to Homestead Falls. Yeah. And we've all been friends for a long time.
Yeah.
So that trust is huge because we send him out on a house and whatever he reports back to us, we would never second guess. Like, is he ripping us off? I couldn't imagine being in a relationship with a contractor like that. And I know there's a lot of people who've gotten burned They pay a contractor some up front and they never see him again.
I've heard that story a
Yeah.
lot of times.
Yeah, it happens to us too. I mean, we've had contractors in the last year that have worked on a project for us and then just bailed
Oh, the tree guy.
and came back. Oh,
Bay
yeah, the tree
Village.
guy. You remember that?
Remember we had to get that tree
Oh,
cut
yeah.
down?
He does my landscaping at our lake
Or
house.
maybe he did your
Shout out to
He did
Jeff.
landscape.
Yeah.
He was messaging me for a while, like, am I still going to get your business for next year? Well, no,
He screwed us over.
You
Yeah.
owe us like $800.
Yeah.
You're going to be cutting a lot of free lawns.
Yeah.
Son
It's
of
a lot of lawns.
It's a lot of lawns. Oh, God, there's the Trump voice.
And so,
Can't
yeah,
put away.
speaking of, so you kind of skipped over the whole comedy thing. How did that play in?
How did that play into?
Yeah, how'd you even start getting into, like, at what point were you like, I should go tell jokes on a stage?
I remember it very specifically. It was, so I was going to grad school for Bowling Green, right? In geology, which, by the way, I knew nothing about rocks and I still know nothing about rocks. It was just the program I was doing was under the geology department. So that's where it was. So anyway, long story short, in order to do that, Bowling Green, you had to do something called a field camp. 5 weeks, we drove from Ohio to New Mexico and Colorado. And I was there was probably 20 of us and people from different states, different schools, and a couple people from BG. So I maybe knew one or two people. The rest I had no idea. I've never met before. And it was 5 weeks, like you're in the field, looking at rocks, taking samples, doing all this stuff. Some of the most beautiful places I've ever been, like remote Colorado and New Mexico. Get up every morning and you go out and you do something for 5 weeks. So anyway, all these people I'm with know about rocks. They're all going to graduate school for geology. They like love rocks. And geology is one of the hardest, most complicated. You wouldn't think it. You think, oh, it's just a
More
fucking
nerds.
rock. Yeah, more nerds. But you get into the chemistry. But anyway, so I knew nothing. And you'd partner up on these projects. Okay, so here's like, you're the partner. You know, what am I bringing to the table? Nothing. Like I would tell people like, I don't know anything about this, just so you know. So I kind of just found my niche as being the funny guy of the group.
Morale guy.
Yeah, the morale, exactly. Oh, this sucks. We're up
Always
early.
a class clown.
Well, yeah. So
Trell.
yeah.
So funny.
I love making when we could all laugh together is like my favorite thing. So I was just making these people crack up for 5 weeks. I never knew them. We all became really good friends. Some of them I still talk to. And then I was thinking about that. I'm like, damn, that was kind of cool. All these strangers. So like a week after I got back from that trip, I was going to Bowling Green, living in Bowling Green. I went to my first open mic. It was a hookah bar in Toledo. And at that bar, I met, you remember Jake, another comedian. We ended up being great friends and ended up being roommates. And I met a lot of people. And that's how
Like,
it
how
started.
nervous were you the first night, though? Like, when you saw the stage, you're like, shit.
Oh, it was the state. It was like a room like this. It was like, it was.
One of your first shows, he's won competitions all over the country. And so you really turned into
I've
something. You
been
had
to-
like a cheat sheet in your pocket. Was that one of your first shows?
Oh yeah. I mean, you
Think
kinda
about how
like that.
far you came from at that point.
I won a few contests in Ohio, not over the, but I traveled for a few states. I was like a feecher and everything. So
You sold
30
out
minutes.
Madison Square Garden.
Oh, I did sell out Madison Square
tell
Garden.
that
I
story.
forgot about that. But then you just start, and then you always suck when you first start out.
So, like, is it expected? Because I remember when, I don't even know if we agreed to work together, but you were Facebook friends with me.
Yeah, I remember.
And
that.
I was at the place. So it was a tiny little club in Boston. And apparently it's where Aaron Hernandez shot a guy.
Oh, nice.
So they like tell you that right when you're leaving. They're like,
funny.
all right, have a good night. But I put that picture up and you're like, oh, I've done this before. And my immediate thought was like, have you bombed? And if you have, what is that like?
Yeah, I think everybody bombs. What's funny about stand-up specifically, because, there's comedy, social media, and all that stuff, but everybody, Dave Chappelle, I guarantee you, has bombed when they start. Nobody, Bo Burnham might be like the one exception who was like at 18 was our star, if you know who that is. Everybody else, you have to put a decade in to get anything. So everybody's bombed, and it's part of the, what's really funny? There's a comedian that I cut my teeth with. His name's Brad Wenzel. He's like the most famous guy of our group. He's been on Coney, lives in LA now. He like did a contest in Nebraska. It was like the Johnny Carson thing. And he's won contests all over. He won the Cleveland Comedy Festival years ago. And he wins this festival. He comes back to the Toledo Funny Bone, which is one of the clubs I did a lot, and bombed. And all of us comics that were there were like, these people don't know, like, this kid is going to be a star. And he is. And he's still on the upswing. But then he just comes back and bombs. And maybe it was him and maybe it was the crowd and maybe it was who he followed or whatever. But it's such an interesting thing because it depends on so many factors. It depends on your energy, your jokes, you know, if you can play off something that didn't do well.
Because that's what I've always related to is like, because I was terrified to hit the phones for my own business when I first started. I was like, even people would be like, hey, we want to do social media. I'd be like, that's cool. And I just wouldn't say anything.
Text me.
Yeah. And then I imagine it's like, okay, for someone to see the benefit of a service is one thing, but to convince an entire room to find humor in what you're saying seems like a whole nother.
Yeah. And it's a great thing because it's like, it's such a pure, it's just you and a microphone and a completely blank slate. They don't know who you are. They don't know your personality. They don't know your sense of humor. They don't know if you're going to be dirty or whatever, or silly. And it's such like you just start from it, but it's, yeah, you're going to bomb, but you know you're going to bomb because you see your friends bomb too. And it's like,
that would probably calm me down.
Yeah, you got to have the group. And it's a lot like in real estate, like we were talking about cold callings. And, you know, how many appointments have you gone on, especially in the beginning? And you leave the appointment, you're like, oh my God, that was rough.
Yeah.
But you don't live and die by that. You're not going to stop going on appointments because you had a rough one or somebody on the phone cursed you out. It's the same thing with stand-up. You're going to bomb, but you have to almost find the humor in it and be like, oh God, on to the next one. You have to have like a memory of a goldfish. And I think both of them.
That happens a lot. I know some appointments we leave, we're like, God, we nailed it. We made such a good connection with the seller. And then other ones, you're like almost getting kicked out of the house.
Yeah, you're like, oh God, I can't get out of here fast enough.
Something just wasn't right. I'm sure, that's got to be similar with comedy.
So bombing is just like, but it is what it is. The people in the audience would never have the balls to get up there in the first place. So who are they? You know what I mean?
Sure. And I personally love stand-up comedy, going to a show, even a small show. And we went to New York City last October, 2 years ago now. And what a fun setting that is, you know, with comics you don't know, going up on stage, and you can see that they're nervous.
You know what's funny too about stand-up is the one thing that if you ever been in the audience when somebody's not doing well, go to any open mic. Open mics are like,
well, in Boston it was. So the first guy crushed it, and I mean, I'm like, my stomach hurts, I'm laughing, and then the next guy goes up, and like we're halfway through, and you can like feel discomfort.
The audience is it's awkward to watch. You're not up there, he's bombing, but it's awkward for the audience. That's what's weird about it, and you can totally feel that when you're up on stage, and you're just like, oh my gosh, how much more time do I have to fill? And
then I didn't want to make eye contact with him. It was so bad because I'm like, he's going to aim at me, and then I'm going to be a part of the not funny.
Yeah, and that's a weird dynamic. Like
you're not funny, then you get kicked out.
Yeah, it's like contagious. The not funny is contagious.
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting thing. And I haven't done stand-up in years. I did it in my 20s. So I'm not like, these are the rules of stand-up or anything, but I have the utmost respect for people who still do it because it's
well, we were talking about that the other day at the winery about like, I was saying, like, you have to double down on everything you say. Like in our coaching group right now, one of the things they said is people hate content that has words of uncertainty. Maybe, probably, or you come in with some hard opinion and then you defend the other opinion. Like, do you think there's a correlation in business where like you almost have to believe what you say and you can't be uncertain?
Yeah. Well, so there's a saying that says, oh God, now I'm going to butcher it. So one of the lines that I've always lived by is people don't care what you know until they know how much you care. So we've always believed that in sales is because if you show sincerity, right, or you show conviction, or you have a purpose to what you're doing, it almost doesn't matter what you're selling or what your message is like, how do you actually feel about it? So, I mean, there was a point where when I was selling life insurance, I'm like, this is terrible. Like, I'm trying to go to my friends and family and try to hustle them for money to like, so I can make, and feed my family. But at the same time, there was a time where I'm like, well, wow, if they don't buy this life insurance and they pass away, then their family's left with nothing. Like, I have a belief in this. So I kind of changed around how I felt about it. Still wasn't a passion of mine, but I guess does that kind of...
Yeah, that's kind of what I was asking. Because
conviction in your business.
Yeah, because especially when it comes to content, like for those of you that don't know, that's how we all know each other. I help them with social media, but you guys were the first two, I think in Ohio I worked with, that understood the be yourself thing.
Let's go.
And Katie literally watched the first
we are
batch
actually
of videos.
Really robotic and weird.
And when Katie watched it, she goes, "Oh, these guys are like real people." That was her feedback. And so when I noticed that, I was like, okay, well, they're probably opinionated too, but they don't lean into that.
It's still like It's a lot easier than it was, but that first we were at Pine Tree on that first appointment. Dude, I felt like I was
holding that coffee that we heard about for weeks.
Rigid. I was so caffeinated too. I
went to the wrong house. I literally I think I was 2 houses down, and I'm like pounding on this door. I'm like,
oh, did you really?
Yeah, I was like,
these guys are so scared. They're not even opening the door.
I thought, I was like, maybe they don't want to do it. So I'm like knocking, and this guy's like, what's going on? And I also, I didn't meet you two either. So I go, are you Mario? And I put my hand out, and this guy's like, I'm not.
You're right. Yeah.
You could have been kidnapped and put in the basement.
Steve, you set it up, and I never, but I knew who you were because I think Travis said he was working with him. And
well, Travis, that story was crazy too because Travis booked a call with me in January and just never showed up, and I was like, well, that's
Trav, come on, dude.
I'll give him credit.
He's got a lot going on.
When I got on a call with him, whenever that was, June, he was very honest. He goes, I didn't want to hire someone who wasn't doing it.
Doing social media?
Yeah, I wasn't at the time. Okay. And I started, what would that have been, January of last year. So once he saw I was doing it, he's like, okay, I can be in the game with this guy. And so I'm in Connecticut at the time, and, we agreed to work together. I did a strategy call with him and Kayla. And he goes, what day do you get back? So this is like on a Tuesday. I'm like, we get back tomorrow. He goes, what are you doing Thursday? And I'm like, nothing. Why? He goes, you want to talk? So he gets a small room. And that day, I think like 150 people.
Oh, the networking event.
Oh my God, I crap my pants. So that was my first speaking.
Oh, when you were the speaker,
yeah. So I probably had 5 energy drinks that night.
Oh, God.
Stayed up, made this beautiful presentation for the Bluetooth to cut off.
That doesn't help. Yeah.
Oh, it was terrifying. But
wing it.
Yeah, at that time, I remember we got to your house, and you guys were both very funny on camera, but I could tell you were overthinking it. So where you're at now, where do you think it's still hard to be opinionated? Like, is it a fear thing? Is it like, oh, someone's going to not like that I said this?
I think what are we going to be opinionated about?
I think it's the gap of what would you say at the winery if the camera wasn't on versus when I go, say that again.
Sure. Well, real estate, I will say this. Real estate is one of those careers where the polished aspect doesn't really apply all the time, but it can. So, for instance, you go, in real estate, you have realtors, right? Suit and tie or dress really nicely, heels, whatever the ladies wear, and they go to a $500,000 listing. Okay, well, conversely, you could have somebody in a flannel, work boots, and you show up to an appointment, that's a flip. You have that different ends of the spectrum where it's one of those businesses, it's not like a bank where I used to work and I would have to get, dry cleaning done every day. So, and you have to be really PC and you have to say the right things. Real estate, you can kind of bend the rules a little bit, be a little bit more yourself. But at the same time, you have to put out a positive professional image, right? I mean, we're flipping, 11 houses. We've got millions of dollars of other people's money at play. So, we want to be opinionated and funny, but we also don't.
We also want your money.
Jackasses. Please, still give us your money. I mean, we don't want to look like idiots. And really, we are real people. We're funny. But when it comes to our business, we want to act professionally. So I think that is what I think in the back of my mind is I want to be funny. I want to be real. I want to make people laugh. Don't want to be like everybody else. But I want to have some level of professionalism.
Do you notice the words you say? You said, I want to act professionally.
Got him.
So
he's not professional.
Notice, you guys already are, your flips are, the work you do, that's the professional.
So there we go.
Because think about what you originally said. You were like, you end up liking people because they believe what they do and they have conviction. So that's actually probably the gear. Whereas the work and hey, here's our finished product. Sure. That's where you be professional.
Yeah, no, great point. But, that always weighs on my mind. It's like, okay, I want to make sure no matter what I'm doing. I mean, there's a lot of posts I want to make on Facebook that are skirting the line. I'm like, am I going to lose an investor or a client or a vendor?
What do you think about that?
I think it's the same thing I said to Adam and Travis. When you double down, you get the results of it. So if someone is on the line and you sharing your opinion pushes them away, I think that's a gift.
Yeah.
But it's also if you double down, how many people that were on the sidelines go, I want to work with that guy now. Because that's something for me. When I was in Florida, I told Steve about this on a phone call. The guy who does Cardone's social media was like, what market are you in? I was like, I'm in Cleveland. He goes, okay, how many people under the age of 40 just consistently post 3 times a week, even if it's super staged? And I thought of 5 to 10 people. And he goes, now out of those, how many of them sound exactly how they sound in a closed room? And I couldn't think one. And so what he said is, he's like, that's your opportunity. He's like, go be the young guy who you have belief in your product, you have belief in your service, But when you want to talk about what you want to talk about, say it exactly how you feel.
Yeah.
Because since that's happened, I've had people who I've known for 3 years finally crawl out of the woodwork and be like, hey, let's do a discovery call. So I think you guys are in the same boat where it's like there probably are a ton of people with money that, oh, I see Mario and Steve, but until I feel like I'm his friend, I'm not going to make that call.
Yeah, they make that connection. And it's funny because we've actually gotten some, people messaging and reaching out to us through our social media because they see what we're doing. And that was a first for us. I mean, we've had probably 3 to 5 people reach out over the last.
And one person specifically said, I think it was like, you guys seem down to earth. And I was like,
not professional.
Wait till you talk to us in a closed room. I've got an opinion. You want to start a little Cleveland real estate war? Stay in school. Go to college. Yeah. I'm coming for you, Trav.
Yeah. Just keep working at your job. Don't quit. Don't be an idiot.
Work your miserable job.
No, but stay at your job until you have enough money to quit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
I know where he's coming from, though. And actually.
But what's interesting about that is he's told me that he's had more people ask about real estate investing.
Oh, really?
Since, like, people he knows, like at basketball games. Like, because I think his son might be in 6th grade. He's having parents walk up and be like, hey, is that real estate?
Think about how many people want to quit their job.
So say what, and that's the other thing they talk about, is say the thing that no one's willing to say.
Right. Well, then the same message that they had for me, because I was at the bank working with them, and I took the leap, and it worked out great. And actually, the sad part is we've had some people work with us, and I've worked with that. It's like one of those things. You ever see that? Not a meme, but like maybe a photo. It's a caricature where it's like the guy, the miner with the pickaxe.
He's almost there.
Yeah, he's right there. He's almost to the gold. That happens all the time. It happens so much, and I've seen it. It's so sad because I want to be like, dude or lady, if you just stick with another 6 months, you're in. You have what it takes. And there's people that I've trained that in the first week or two, I'm like, you have no hope. You should go back to get
So think about this. Nothing about Travis's offer has changed. He still is doing the same thing. It's just how are you getting people to understand it?
Yeah.
So for me, I used to be so nerdy with my content. I'd be like, here's how to add this transition. And like, no one gives a shit about that.
Yeah.
But when it's like, hey, you're afraid about 2 high school friends and that's why you don't make content and your business suffers because of it. Yeah. That stings. And that's what they tell their wife at night.
Yeah. There's some girl in North Ridgeville being like, he's right.
They've had the same message for years. And that's why we're at locals.
We should have a 4-person podcast. We can all sit on this couch.
Yeah.
Me, you, Adam, and Trav.
Let's do it.
Adam's not a big guy.
Adam?
Yeah, he could fit right here.
Yeah. Sit on each other's lap. So yeah, because I think that's another thing I wanted to ask you guys about. A lot of people, or at least me personally, I had
calls in 4 minutes, boys.
Yeah, Mario's gonna have to leave everyone, but we'll keep going.
Pick up a little kitten. So Adam was right the other night. I do have to go pick up a fucking cat in 4 minutes. Dude.
Hey, my wife, you care about him. You care about him. What cat is it?
It's right up the road.
What's its name?
It's the one of 2 fosters that we have, and then we're done. No more cats.
We're done.
In my house.
You want to date this? This is February 19th, 2024.
Yeah.
No more cats. Tell my wife.
So how do you guys? Because this is where I personally get envious. I had, let's say, 15 friends in college where we talk every day, and then when I was like, I'm starting a business, that number dwindled down to like 3. Because a lot of them are like, you're idiot, you're reckless, like that's a bad idea. Think about the long term. And I know they're all suffering and they hate their job. Sure. But I have 2 very close friends that took a similar path. One's in sales, one's like a high level, more contracting engineer. How important is it, do you think, to have other guys that are in the game with you that you can call, even if they're not direct business partners, but people with similar interest and similar game?
So let me tell you about the trap. This will answer your question. You're 25 years old.
26, yeah.
26, okay.
You don't look a day over 25.
You look great, by the way. You have all the right in the world to start a business, okay? And everybody should start a business. It's just how you're going to go about doing it. I have friends right now that have good jobs that I could pluck from their jobs and they would kill it in real estate. But the risk, think about it. I'm 37. So if I have a 37-year-old friend who's got 2 kids and a wife, has bills, and all that, and they go from making $160,000 a year or whatever they're making down to 60 or 40 or whatever, or 30, whatever you'd make in the first year in real estate, and you end up not making it, that's life-changing in a negative way. So there is a risk there, okay? they're in the trap. They're trapped in their job because the job's paying them enough to live their lifestyle, but they're never going to break through that and make $200,000, $300,000, $500,000 a year, right? So that, I think, I don't know if that answers your question, but that's the trouble is as you get older and you start taking on more responsibility, the probability and the willingness to start a business goes way down.
Yeah. When I started, I had $10,000 in the bank and didn't have a house, mortgage, or anything like that. But for me, $10,000 in the bank was a shit ton of money. I could live, almost.
You could fail.
Yeah, you're right. You could fail. So that risk is gone.
Yeah. And do you think that even, let's say you didn't have that 10,000, do you think your path would have been different? Like, let's say it was like 2,000 and it's like in a month, I'm going to have to pay most of that to bills.
I don't think it would have been. I like to think that I would have stayed on the same path, but maybe. I think just having like an idea of like, okay, if I suck at this and if I fail, if it's not right, I can at least pay my bills. But what did I have to lose? I get evicted out of an apartment, you know what I mean? Or something like that. There really wasn't any consequence that could be so bad.
And how important, because I was trying to kind of ask Mario this, how important is it to have like Mario? Because like you two play the game together.
Yeah.
And I think that's something like my buddy in sales, we went out to dinner on Friday and I was like, listen, when we invest in real estate, like I need you in this too.
Yeah.
Because I'm realizing that like there's Adam and Travis, there's you and Mario. And like a lot of the successful people, they have that other guy that's with them.
Yeah. It's super important. Anybody who would get into real estate, I would say, especially if you're doing something active like wholesaling or flipping, is to get a mentor. Trying to do it all yourself from scratch, I think would be like really hard.
And how crazy is that for people that are doing that to think like they're going to magically learn this stuff?
Well, there's so many things. There's different skill sets. So you might be able to find a deal. How do you finance it? Can you speak the language that somebody with $500,000 on the sidelines wanting to invest? Can you speak that language? Can you talk about that? Can you work with contractors? Can you speak that language? What about selling it on the back end? That whole selling of the house, what the realtor aspect is a whole different skill set and that negotiation. So if you're going to go flip and you've never done one and you're going to go start to finish, how are you going to find the lead? What marketing channels are you going to do? To negotiating that contract, to negotiating with a contractor, there's just a lot to do. And it's like, you might as well work with somebody. And there's so many great people, a lot of those people you've had on your podcast who are like, I would love to show somebody the ropes, for free or a part of the deal or whatever it is. Like, take advantage of that because you'd be silly not to. So with me and Mario, it's like, he's really good at, and I've been telling him now that he's not here, I can talk shit. His whole thing, my whole thing with him in 2024 is get off the computer.
Is he on it a lot?
Well, he does these tasks, right? And he's not very good at the computer. And he has.
What are we talking about? Like, is this like a Trello Monday.com thing? Or?
No, it's sending emails. It's, paying bills. It's following up with shit. His computer took a shit late last year. I go, dude, get an Apple. You have an Apple, right? Yeah. I go, dude, get an Apple, spend a little bit of money and get one. He has an iPhone.
Hey, you need an iPhone.
I don't have an iPhone, but I have a Mac.
You need an iPhone.
What's funny is iPhone people have a problem with Android. Android people, we don't even think about iPhone people.
I do have a problem with Android people.
We don't even think about you. But he gets this shitty little computer that he already needs a new one. And he gets frustrated and all this shit. And I'm like, dude, your skill set is not on the computer. Your skill set is getting on the phone and talking to people. He's fanatical about golf. I'm like, dude, once a week when the weather breaks, at least once a week, you need to take somebody golfing.
Yeah.
An investor, somebody that is in the business, the realm of real estate. That is your goal. Get the fuck out of the office, get off your computer. So we kind of divided the labor. I'm better at computers. I'm better at that type of shit. You know what I mean? So we kind of diversify the skill set.
And he committed to the golf league, right?
Yeah, to Ryan's golf league. Yeah, I think we're both going to try to do it. I suck at golf.
I haven't got. So I used to work at Westfield. I think I told you.
Oh, okay.
Free golf all summer. So in college, I was really good, but I have not golfed since.
Yeah. Are you in the league this summer?
Yeah, Ryan talked me into it.
So that type of thing is he's really good at a few things, and I'm really good at a few things that, they kind of play off of each other. So that's why I think it works so well for us. And the other thing that I think it works, not only that we've been friends and our brother-in-laws and all that stuff, is that our risk tolerance is the same.
I want to give you guys credit. I have never been more maybe comfortable or motivated to be a business owner than when we went to the property that you know what I'm talking about.
Haverhill.
Yeah. And like, I would have probably, if I were in your shoes, if that was me, had a panic attack.
Yeah.
Called my accountant, freaked out, not wanted to invest in real estate. And your calm reaction was, let's still film the content and talk about this at Chipotle. And it was so freeing because I realized like that's as bad as it can get.
Yeah, it actually got worse. It actually got worse. And we had a bad deal last year, but we learned from it. And that's the kind of thing like bombing. That was like bombing.
That was like a real estate bomb.
Yeah, it was a real estate bomb. And so are we going to quit? No, you can't quit because of that. You can't live and die by that. And conversely, you can have a really sweet deal, home run deal. That thing is out of my mind in like a day, and I'm on to the next one. Like you can't, you've heard like a lot of entrepreneurs and people like, don't get too high on the highs and don't get too low on the lows.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't do that. You just got to keep moving forward on whether it's good or bad.
Because that's a hard thing for me. When I started, I was always like, if I got a high, like ride it to the end. If I got a low, like punish myself way longer than
No, you can't do that.
How do you learn to stay in the middle? Like that seems like a skill set in and of itself.
I love just finding the next one. I love taking whenever my phone rings and I know it's like a seller or an owner, you always think like, man, this could be a $70,000 profit on the other end of this. You know, I had a list when I first started cold calling and stuff. I'd print out a list and then I'd like find their numbers. I wasn't skip tracing or anything. Yeah. And to stay motivated, I'm like, there's $25,000 somewhere in this list. I just got to find it. You know,
that's like, there's a quote I was told, the gap between where you are and being a millionaire is just a couple conversations.
Yeah. And I keep telling him like, dude, he's gregarious. He can talk. Thing about him, there's a couple other people that I know too that are part of local and some people outside, is that someone like Mario can go into any room, a networking event or a couple people, and he could start a conversation and like be that person's best friend 20 minutes later. He does it all the time.
Yeah.
And me and Kara, his wife, like joke about it, like, oh God, Mario's talking to this. Like we'll be out of town at a restaurant. Mario will find some one common thread to start the conversation and then be like, this guy's inviting us over for steaks later. And it just make it like that. So I'm like, dude, that is a skill set that most people don't have.
Yeah.
So focus on that. I'll take care of all the,
So a lot of people think
shit.
when someone's out golfing, they're just fucking around. But like what you're saying is that genuinely, if Mario takes someone who has a lot of capital that maybe they don't fully get how to invest in real estate, that it is probably the most responsible thing for him to do is just go golf.
Yeah. Just focus on what you're good at, And because that's the relationship building is so important. Whether that somebody can give us a deal or lend us money, or whether that person, we might not know, that might not bear any fruit until a year from now when that person's like, oh, you know who you should talk to? Mario and Steve.
Yeah.
And that you just never know. But the skill set of talking to new people about something professional is hard. Like speaking of stand-up, and you're talking about how you we're all nervous in front of that. I'm more comfortable in a room full of people behind a microphone than I am like a one-on-one networking.
Really?
Because I can't do small talk. There's something about it. I would rather be in front of a group talking, everybody not saying anything and listening to me than like.
Maybe I come off rude, but I think I'm better at the small talk because I don't try to make it small. Like I ask like 3 hard hitters, and if those don't go how I want it, I'm just like,
done.
Awesome. I gotta go talk to Steve. Yeah. I haven't said hello to him yet, even though I just talked to you for 10 minutes.
It's funny how that works.
Yeah. The stage thing is tough. What do you think is the most important thing that you've done that you think you should keep doing? Like you say, everyone needs to do more of what they're good at. What's your version of that?
What's my version at that? We're amplifying our marketing this year, like this spring and summer. Couple new avenues, and I'm good at kind of thinking like, you hear that thing like everybody's swimming this way, start swimming that way.
Yeah.
And I like to think about things in terms of that. Like when I first started, it was, you would write letters, and the whole thing was handwritten letters on yellow paper.
Okay.
That was like gospel. Handwritten letters, handwritten envelope, yellow paper. And it's like, God, that takes a long time. You could write 20 in an hour.
Yeah.
And people would hire, that was what Mario's thing was, handwritten letters. And he would hire these people. It was like 10 cents a letter and they'd write it. And I started thinking like, that is just, you can't scale that. So I started I would pull lists from the Cuyahoga County Auditor site, put them in like nerding out here, put them in like a database thing, like a Microsoft Access, open source. So it was all free. Filter out exactly the properties I wanted to filter out with their mailing address. And then I started mail merging in Google Sheets and Google Docs and started printing the envelopes. So they were specific to that person that had the person's name. I want to buy your house at 123 Main Street. And it would just mail merge those all in together. I would send out thousands at a time. Yeah. And nobody else, at least in our little circle, was doing that. So that started getting me success. And then I started thinking like, I was still printing them on a yellow paper with red ink. They're just big, bold. Yeah. I want to buy your house. Cash as is, blah, blah, blah. And then I started thinking like, man, is that the best way to do it? Because we were going after apartment buildings too. And I'm thinking like, what is a multi-million-dollar investor? Is that what they want to see, or is that kind of chintzy? So then I spent a lot of time creating a business, nice, succinct, right to the point, professional letter that we send out. And I'll get people who will call me and say, I'm not interested in selling, but I just want to say I get a postcard every day. I get a lot of letters. Yours was like one of the best I've seen.
And then you're kind of in the roster then.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
Like we took down an apartment building in Lakewood last May.
Yeah.
Our nice, beautiful, beautiful building from a mom and pop owner. And we started that conversation. We sent her a letter and she said, I just really liked your letter. So I gave you a call. So
you're the marketing guy. That's the best.
Yeah. The marketing guy, which I've come to over the last year, and somebody in Northeast Ohio has said it, but I also heard it from like a national wholesaler guy that I follow on Instagram. He's like, once I realized I was in marketing and sales and not in real estate, the whole game changed.
That's just your product.
And it's like, yeah, dude, what is finding an off-market deal? The person who has it calls you. That's all marketing. So that's what the social media is. That's what the letters are.
Whose idea was it to reach out to me? I was going to ask you guys that.
Mine. And, it's because of Grant Cardone's book, 10X Mentor. Have you read that? Yeah. Or it's only on Audible, I think. But his underlying theme. What's that?
Was it the omnipresence chapter?
Well, it was his line, if they don't know you, they don't flow you.
Yeah.
And that just stuck. And he said it over and over again. They don't know you, they don't flow you.
And is that so?
It's pretty good, Grant Cardone.
That was So is that kind of, because I think that's what a lot of people mess it up as. Like I've had a lot of people reach out to me where they want to use social media to just be someone they're not, which is like the worst reason someone can reach out to me. But for you two, it was like you kind of knew what you were doing. It's like now we need to get more people to know that. Yeah.
And I still with your stuff, when we pulled the trigger to start with you, it was, we have no idea what this is going to lead to.
Yeah.
We're not like, hey, Alex, we're 6 months in, we still haven't gotten a deal, dude. Yeah. That's not what it's about. And a lot of times you and Katie will post a video. I don't even watch it. I'm like, oh God, I still like kind of cringe. So I might watch one of every three. No offense, but
no, because I don't, that's a healthy, so I don't like Katie hits post on mine.
Yeah.
I don't do it. It's because it's a dangerous game. When you start self-censoring, what do I think is interesting? You get this weird brainchild of like, oh, I thought that was interesting.
And it's funny, Mario's not here, but we had one video. It was in the Middleburg Heights house. And he's talking about wallpaper. And you guys did it where it's like, should we keep the wallpaper or should we get rid of it? And it was like 6 seconds. And it's just Mario's like, man, this is a lot of wallpaper. And in less than a day, it was going viral. It had like thousands and thousands of views. And I'm like watching, I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. And he sees it and he deletes it off. He deletes it. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Because he thought he looked cringy on it. I'm like, dude, first off, you didn't. It's just looking at yourself. And what are you doing? That one was going like viral. So that's why. So like if they don't know you, they don't flow you type of thing is like, if people don't know what you're doing, they're not even going to think about you,
Yeah. Like I made this joke on another podcast. People are always like, well, what if I get hate and everyone thinks I'm an idiot? I'm like, let's just get there first. Get to where people can even have that chance.
It's funny you say that because I feel like it's a true thing, especially in real estate. So if you're a realtor too, I started to notice when you're working with clients, so much of the time is people, they will invent problems before they're problems. Well, what if the inspection comes back? Okay, well, what if the same chance is the inspection comes back fine?
Yeah.
What if the buyer doesn't want to do this? What if the buyer does? Like, if that happens, let's deal with it. And that happens a lot. Like, let's make an offer. Well, what if they think it's too low? Well, how the hell are you going to know if it's too low until you make it?
The dumbest one I get is, what happens if we post a video and it doesn't get many views and then everyone thinks I'm stupid?
Yeah.
And it's like, if it didn't get many views, no one's thinking about you.
Yeah, right. Nobody thinks about you anyway. That's the thing.
And the more I've been posting, because I'm now like keeping up with you guys in the frequency space, you're just getting a little chance for their week. I mean, like, no one wants to admit it, but people look at sharks taking down random fish on Instagram. Then they're seeing some girl's ass. Then it's a basketball highlight. So in that 20% of the day where they're productive, that's what you're going to be in.
Right.
And you just have to, like, a lot of people don't want to admit to themselves, like, that's all I have.
Most people watching your shit are doing it on the toilet.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. Like, you're fucking at your job, you're taking a 20-minute toilet break and you're flicking through Instagram. And think about, like, I don't think about anybody that I follow and watch, whether I know them personally or not. You're not judging them off of any one video.
Yeah, it's an accumulation.
Yeah, but what you notice is like, oh, this person's posting a lot all over my feed, and then that one video is interesting, or that one video will hit. And that's kind of where,
And the funny thing to me is when people will tell me they're like, oh, do you work with Steve and Mario? I go, yeah. They go, oh, I love their content. It's hilarious.
Oh, yeah? Nice.
But notice it's not, they're super professional.
Yeah,
they're scholars. It's just like, that's who they are.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of like the thing I was saying, like swimming the other direction is, God, we could go on there and talk about, DCSR loans or the Burr method. Dude, you could Google that shit, and there's people way more knowledgeable than us who will give you way more information. So I was always thinking, well, what can we bring? And he and I are both in agreement, like, let's just,
be yourself.
Yeah, be ourselves. We laugh all the time. We laugh with Ian. We laugh with the contractor. All these people. Let's just try to portray that and see what happens.
And even like Ashley, when she first saw your page, she goes, I really like those guys, but why do they know so much and say so little?
Yeah, that stuck with me when you said that.
Oh, it hurt. She said it to me too.
Damn it, Ashley.
Yeah, but she's right, and I think that's something in the Midwest that a lot of us suffer from that we don't want to admit is like, why is it even hard to say what we're doing?
That's a very Midwest thing. It's a very Midwest, because you said before, I think, it was like out in California, everybody would have their own little camera guy following them around.
So I went out, it was August of 2021. Katie and I got invited out to go see a lady who runs a networking event for real estate people. And I was like, this is my chance. Like, I'm so special. Like, I'm going to be the social media guy there.
Yeah.
Every single person had two of me.
Yeah, two.
And I was like, okay, like, one, I'm not special, but two, what you realize is in certain markets, they are ahead in time. Like LA is in 2040. Well, I don't know about right now, but
right.
Then you come back here and you're like, oh, we're still in like 2012.
Right. Well, you were saying like Tampa's leading the charge now.
Tampa's
why is that? What are they doing?
It's the people. So Ryan McGinn, the guy who manages like Ryan Pineda, Grant Cardone, like basically any big account, he has at some point touched it. He was Hermosi's first people.
And he lives out in Tampa? And
so he lives in Tampa. And then on top of it, when that guy is running masterminds, most people are going to be local that show up there.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens is you get a lot of people who learn from him that like, I work with you guys locally, but probably 50% of the people I work with are all across the country. So you get this hub where everyone knows the best guy doing it and he's teaching everyone else. And then they go disperse that to their market. Because I think I was probably the only one there from Ohio.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. And that was the thing that Ryan said to me, because I got 45 minutes with him on a Friday. I was just like doing our post for the day while Katie's inside taking notes. And he goes, oh, Cleveland, you're in a past market. And I was like, it kind of stung, but he was right. Yeah. I'm like, yeah.
Like stuck in the past?
Yeah, like we're always going to be behind the big markets.
Oh, yeah.
So if you do something that's working in the present and bring it to a past market, everyone goes, oh, that's new, that's cool. But it's like, it's not new, it's just new here.
Yeah, which, hey, it works. Let them figure out what works.
Yeah,
and bring it here.
Implement it. Because it hurt my feelings, but he was right. Because now in my head, if it's like, what is my goal outside of make more money? It's like, bring Cleveland up to date as a market.
Yeah.
And then when people ask how it happened, they point at me.
Yeah.
And that's the goal.
Yeah.
Because there's already enough people here that make the money and have good businesses. It's just they're embarrassed to talk about it.
Right. That's what surprised me. There's some like really good real estate people here, whether they're agents or investors or whatnot, that like are so good. Like they could be on a freaking TV show or something.
But they won't because they're trained not to be.
Yeah.
That's a huge curse. I've seen a couple people have worked with HGTV that I've crossed paths with. And what you get is they've become successful in business not being themselves. And it sucks when you accept that, because we're editing their videos, we're watching them, and it's like they don't even know who they are. They know what their product is and they know what their buyers want to hear.
Yeah.
But when it's like, who are you? They don't remember. Like I've had phone calls where I go, it's a test question. It has nothing to do with content. And I go, who are you outside of your job? And I've had people break down on the phone call.
Wow.
Because I'm the first person in 20 years to ask them that.
Yeah.
And you're like, woof, counseling session.
Do you think in this business, do you think that, social media has obviously been around for a while, but coming up this next generation, can you be successful not on social media?
You would have to spend an asinine amount on, no, because I would say paid ads, which is still technically social media. I don't think so, because I think you're going to get to a point where, like, I use the ice bath example. I had 3 people who I've known for years that have never booked a call with me, never wanted to talk about my services. I posted that I did an ice bath, and they're like, hey, we need to talk. I do that too.
Really?
So my product didn't change. My service didn't change. It was, how can I relate to them that does? And I think what a lot of people are going to miss out on is they're so focused on, I do this to help you, I do this to help you, but they forget that it's like, hey, 300 other people can do what you do.
Yeah, right.
They just want to know who you are.
Right.
Because in a world where like AI is getting a lot more powerful, automations for like follow-up and things are getting more powerful, the last thing that is to be automated is personality.
Right.
So that's the only real free point that anyone has to not get attacked.
Yeah. Authenticity. Like I was thinking about this the other week. I think like the most valuable thing now is like original thought and authenticity.
So Kevin O'Leary made a comment. He goes, if you asked me 10 years ago what was going to make the most money, I would have said engineering and tech. He said, now it's the ability to tell your story in 60 seconds.
Yeah. Which is crazy because like it's just, you might just be an average Joe.
But an average Joe that people can relate to is better than, oh, was that a CGI video that I just watched?
Right, right.
Because that's the thing. It's like people don't want to be sold by a robot.
Right.
I want to be sold by Steve. I want to know that, like, he believes in his winery. And that's why I'm going to go there versus this other winery.
I want to know Steve's screwing me over on this. He's selling me a bag of goods on this.
But I think that's the thing. And especially as time goes on, I'm seeing it like with my generation. Like I had to talk with Kane the other day. I was like, dude, do you realize like that all you have to do is just be the loudest 19-year-old and every mom in your friend group is going to go to you and not that lady that they went to some college with. Yeah. But we don't think that way in Ohio. It's just like, I need to not talk too loudly.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't want to stand out. And I don't know why that's a Midwest thing. Maybe it has something to do with a cold or.
I think it's the factory mindset. I think everyone's dad worked at Goodyear.
Yeah.
And you don't talk about how much you make.
Right.
You keep to yourself. You don't brag.
Yeah.
Like,
you don't brag,
like the one thing that kills me here, and shout out Mo. He's the guy who sells solar that I went to high school with. Everyone goes, well, I want to stay humble. And you go, do you know what the definition of that word is? And when you Google it, it's low status, unimportance, administrative. That's the definition of humble, but we don't use it that way.
Right. No.
So if you were like, hey, I want to be low status and seen as administrative, like no one's going to respect you for that.
Yeah. That's interesting. It is a very Midwest thing. Factory. That's good.
Yeah. So I think a lot of it is everyone's afraid to be as good as they are because they know there's 5 people who aren't doing what, like with Kane. I know Kane's thing is he's got a bunch of buddies who are pledging fraternities right now, just getting fucked up every day.
Yeah.
And it's easier to go, oh, well, Kane's just on there trying to make money. It's like, yeah, but you're a fucking loser.
Yeah, doing anything.
Know who you are.
Yeah. Like if you can recognize that at his age at 19, because when those kids are done with college, they'll be 22, and they'll
be 22.
Four years of experience and connections and networks and all that. You're fucking light years ahead of people.
Yeah. And so I think that's the big opportunity is like, if you can recognize very quickly, and the other thing too, is they're afraid of haters, but like at the end of the day, if someone takes enough time out of their day to type on your post, they love you, whether they want to admit that or not. Like for you to go, I'm going to say this mean thing on someone else's page. You cared about them enough to do that.
Yeah.
And no one wants to admit that.
Right. That tree video where Mario's like, we fucked up. People like from different states
are like, like
take off, get your nails dirty and cut it down yourself. We had a bunch of those. And it's like, whoa.
Like there was one. So Danny posted a video the other day about how they had to evict a tenant and there was a fish tank in there. And some guy wrote 4 paragraphs about how he's got shitty credit because he messed up some bill and no one will rent to him.
Yeah.
And I like read through the lines and I'm like, damn, this is a dude who probably wants to rent from Danny, but he's taking it out on YouTube that I'm not qualified to rent.
Right.
And so when you read through what the hate actually is, it's like, oh, it's either jealousy. It's either I wish this person would interact with me. So my only way I think I can get engagement is to be mean.
Yeah. The internet's crazy.
Yeah.
Social media. We love it.
Well, hey, that was episode 10.
Nice, man.
I appreciate it.
That was fun.
All right, guys, we'll be back next week with another episode.